Perfect. So hello, everyone, and thank you for your time. Welcome to the last CCV1 meeting. 3 months can pass by very quickly. So maybe we can start with a quick sort of check-in from the Circle team. We can start with Lauris, please, followed by Victor. How have the past 2 weeks been since we last caught up?
Yeah, hi. So fast 12 weeks, of course, it was quite fast. So a lot of things happened, but not on Catalyst. So yeah, so from Catalyst Circle, yeah, it was more on getting and informing people about new elections coming on. So that's actually was which take most of the time with meetings and discussions. So yeah, so getting ready on maybe some paperwork and just writing down some ideas for those people who I suppose will be mentoring for at least first meetings and yeah, so that's kind of stuff which we are doing and yeah, so that's I think from Catalyst. Otherwise, yeah, it's a lot of things happening with SPOs, so there are a lot of challenges which we are facing, but that's another topic, I suppose, and yeah, let's see.
Perfect. Thank you for the update, Lauris. Victor, please go ahead, followed by Dor.
Yeah, from my side, I've been continuing to work with the DCAs to try to come up with the repetition system. So we've been discussing this and also talking to other CAs to see who wants to be a candidate for Circle V2. And I think that's basically it. And it's my first week full-time Cardano and Catalyst. And yeah, that's it.
Dude, if this was just you doing part-time, what's gonna happen with full-time? That's my question.
Exactly. Awesome. That's great. Thank you, Victor, and welcome full-time on board. It's going to be awesome, I'm sure. Dor, how has the past 2 weeks been, followed by Felix?
Actually, pretty great. It's been a lot of head down, hardcore planning and coordination. Like, you know, our team, you know, we really established a Voltaire group. You know, there's like a Catalyst group, now there's a Voltaire group. Lots of new faces, new product managers that are doing an awesome job and are really owning the transition. And we have a plan in place. We have a plan to basically know that we don't know, but we're gonna start some pilots and we're gonna get the ball rolling. And right now the last hurdle is getting all the stakeholders in a room to say, yes, let's start. Today we were supposed to have that, but I think a lot of them are now in Africa doing like meeting like world leaders and stuff. I can see why, you know, they're weren't able to make it, but hopefully in early next week we'll manage to be in front of their face with present the full plan, get the green light. And once we do that, you know, we can actually go ahead and share a roadmap for Voltaire, clear criteria of success, a strategy plan, and get going. Okay, so it's really exciting, really hard work, but like, I mean, this problem is gonna get moved very soon. So I think that's my main thing. I think in terms of the elections, I mean, I'm considering asking having Harris, the new product manager for Catalyst, like be in the Catalyst circle, because he's gonna be way more in the weeds than me, and going forward. So it might be healthier to do that. Yeah, and I also reached out to Charles, asked him to candidate himself for the voters delegate. So let's see how that goes.
Awesome. Thanks for these 3 updates, all of them exciting. Felix, how have you been?
Amazingly good, very busy. Felt sick last week, so it was a nice signal from the body maybe to calm down from some sides and say, hey, only Catalyst, coffee and cigarettes doesn't work. It's not healthy for a long run. But yes, there we go. And from the toolmaker side, I'm extremely amazed how to see, especially over the last week, so already the community defines new standards. So communication becomes a standard, collaboration becomes a standard, developing common ground gets a standard. And just what Victor made yet, it becomes a little bit, yes, unnamed master KPI of Catalyst. Who is leaving their day job? And more people jumping on the train, getting inspired by each other as well, because as more people doing this step, as more get inspired as well. And this is amazing to see. So, and
Perfect.
just one thing directly to what Dor mentioned on the last point, because one part of the Catalyst circle is, okay, provide a heads up when red lines are crossed. So from last Catalyst circle meeting, Dor, when you said already, yeah, maybe Dor, he will run for the general voters, general ADA holders. I didn't had any good feedback about this from the community. I think just it's important to let everybody know. So everybody said, okay, this might be amazing, but would directly maybe lead to a wrong direction. Because yes, attracts maybe having Charles in a body like this in such an early stage, attracts maybe also a lot of people this when Ada Moon people what we don't want to have focused on in such an early stage on something what is called yet Catalyst circle. It's still a baby. And just wanted to mention that, yes, from the community, there are really concerns about it.
Noted. Thank you very much for the update. So Dor rightfully mentions we don't know if it might be good or bad, definitely very impactful. Yeah, it could go both ways. Maybe a subject of discussion at a later time.
Just with this very brief, for example, some people who want to run for the general ADA voters, they said, yeah, but when Charles nominates, they will not even nominate themselves because they know they will have no chance. So it would be like a little bit like a Putin election. There wouldn't be a choice for others.
Exactly, that's one of the ways it could go. That's the bad way and the good way. Definitely noted. Thank you for that, Felix. Much appreciated. Awesome. So I'll share my screen to the agenda. Are you able to see my screen? Perfect. Just a quick note that we'll be transcribing this meeting in Otter AI. That's a tool that Stephen has introduced to help him a lot with his work. It's helping him be a lot more productive and seamless. So we started off with the check-in. I'm going to quickly go through the agenda so that we're all aligned and kick it off. So first, we're going to start with the Trello board. Quick updates on if there has been any major changes on the cards. We've heard that Dor, Felix, and Victor have been working specifically on how IOHK is going to hand over more of their power to the community. So we'll discuss that and see if anyone else has anything to mention. And then, sorry, there's one thing that I forgot to mention is introducing the admin team. So there's, I'm going to be facilitating, co-facilitated with Nori, who's going to be leading this second half of the meeting, the retrospective. And obviously there's Stephen and there's Peter on the secretary side. So this is where Nori will step in and work on a retrospective. I'm personally very looking forward to this section. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of insights. We're going to get a lot of learnings on how can we improve. Yeah, it should be a fun one. We'll keep some time for open conversation, and it's generally going to be a light session today, just the general feedback and goodbyes towards the end. So if anyone doesn't have any sort of questions or concerns, we'll dive into the Trello board where Peter is going to be sharing his screen. So I'm going to stop sharing. Peter, over to you. All right, perfect. So yeah, maybe we'll start with the card that we know will be discussed. I'll hand it over to Dor, Felix, and Victor, who've been working on how does IOHK and Catalyst community coordinate building governance systems effectively, and how do they hand over to the community. So I'll pass it over to you guys and take it from here.
Sure. Yeah. So first of all, yeah. So there's two different ones, right? It's like we have the IOG. How does IO and the one in the problem backlog, the second item here. Yeah. So this is more about coordination, right? And we slightly kind of pivoted on it, which I think is a good pivot because, you know, rather than like dealing with the entirety of it, we kind of said like, hey, like the community want to take part more at an early stage when we define like incentives, when we define mechanisms for Catalyst, right? And so like, so there's a need for a tighter collaboration with IOG and more inclusion. That's basically how I understood it. So it's, I would say it's kind of like a subset of this problem, but I think in a programmatic way for getting things done, it's actually really useful because that led to a pilot we launched actually today, which was, so I would throw it all the way to a pilot. A solution is already in place where, or it's already starting to be experimented with, where we basically looked at this auditing problem, the need for auditing in Catalyst, and how to create a decentralized auditing layer where we brought these IOG product managers and researchers, you know, in a room together with community, when actually the person talking and guiding the whole process was actually a community member. It was Ron Hill, okay, was doing that. And some of us were there in that meeting, and we had to actually leave to participate in this meeting. But we had two takeaways. One is that, or at least that's what I asked. I don't know. I don't know where they took it, but I think one direction is creating a dedicated group. Okay, let's call it a circle of people that are kind of shepherding that process, okay, of defining this auditing layer and implementing it and following through all the steps. It's a which can easily be like a multi-year process, okay, to get it fully implemented, because it's like apparently it's very complicated. From what we learned in the meeting, it's extremely complicated. But on the short term, you know, we need some kind of an MVP auditing solution for Fund 7. It's like an $8 million fund. So that's more of a, we need a patch there. That's in 3.5 months from now. So this is a more like a different pace. You know, so there needs to be like a kind of a more dedicated group just for the short-term solution that would actually be used as a pilot for, you know, it would instruct the long-term circle, you know, because there will be already a pilot in place and people can observe it and iterate it and expand it. So that's I think that's the conclusion here. So in terms, I would move it to actually being picked up a column, because that's what's happening, and let's see how it goes. Of course, you know, there's more ways to cut this problem, right? Like because this like ecosystem coordination is not just about this; it's about many other things. So, but so it's almost like the format doesn't completely do justice, but I would move it to picked up and maybe reframe the problem to fit this, just so we can. I mean, I'd rather take a bite out of 10% of the problem and solve it than like try to solve everything and not get anywhere. So so that is one. The second one is the remove IO from every decision made in Catalyst. So today I heard a new term coined, like a new acronym. So I really like acronyms. So the new acronym is I think it's YO. It's like WOI. It's like without IO. So basically, like how like starting to look at looking at the litmus test. Is this done with IO or without IO? So I think that's a good anchor, and like basically going through all the processes and decisions and maintenance and core and like one by one, and realizing how do we get to, how do we move it into that, okay, into without IO. Plan is so we have a strategy in place, a roadmap, and we're just waiting for stakeholders' approval to publish it, start to communicate it to the community. It's not a waterfall. I mean, I can tell you already this. It's not a waterfall. It's not like this is how it's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But it's more like this is a process that we're starting with the community, including discussions, including like retrospectives and revision of the plan as we move from iteration to iteration, and we're just setting like defining some useful expectations and metrics of success, just to start to get going, and from there on up, it's mostly about basically like collective awareness mechanisms, like basically like the ability to look at every iteration and determine like, did we succeed, did we not succeed, what's to improve, what needs to be let go of, whatever, and actually that function, that's what's gonna determine the success of Voltaire. It's not the initial conditions, because it's gonna change with reality. What is important is having a really, really awesome this a collective awareness function, and that would drive us to, I think, to a governance system that is better than anything that any researcher or someone right now can state, all right, because it will evolve in a much more organic way. So basically, I think we can keep it at where, this can remain at. I mean, I could move it to a defined problem. It's not publicly shared, the definition, but I would say now it's a well-defined problem. And the next step is, once we don't see approval, then we can move it to the publicly announced, right? To like communicate it outside. I don't know. It's a bit of again, it's another edge case here. Like, is it well defined if not all of us understand it? Like it is not defined explicitly to all of us here. Maybe not. I mean, but and then that's fine. We can still keep it in this column. I'm just not sure what's the right thing to do.
So that's extremely interesting. Is there any action plan or do you need any support from anyone within the circle on this in terms of next steps?
there's a lot of it. I'm just can't. Me as Dor, as an IO employee, I can't just like make up my own plans and announce them. I need approval from the executive layer. And I think basically they're supportive of it, but it needs to go through that process. Like I can't just like come out and say that. So soon, coming soon. Much more detailed plan.
It's great. The progress is great. I believe we can move it. It's never going to really be completely defined. This process inherently can never be defined, but there is a clear, at least, approach now that is being developed. So we can move that. Interested to hear any of the circle members' thoughts, if there are, on the two updates delivered by Dor.
Yep. To the first point, and there can I really see the value of Catalyst Circle as well. By knowing what IoT is doing on their side, we can organize in the community as well. So the toolmaker and maintainer came together in regard to say, oh, okay, when there's something like auditability, especially in the cohort, auditability comes always to standards. And the community started to say, okay, what can we do already to support this way? So just today, we finished we took all funded proposals on a Google Sheet, sent them out to the community and asked the community to define them in very simple text. So they define archetypes for proposals. And this archetypes allow also to say, okay, how can common and familiar KPIs look like, or OKRs can look like. And this is directly addressed also to another problem which is still in the backlog, the cohort. We said also that several groups, which, because toolmakers and maintainers, many of them, they are on proposals. And maybe we have something around 700 proposals, but maybe we just have something around 200 proposals. From these 200 proposals, many of them are addressed as groups like Catalyst Swarm, Catalyst School, Eastern Town Hall, others. We said also, okay, when we move into the cohort, we start to define already now a common reporting way, common reporting tools, which can be used by the majority of the funded proposals in Fund 6, where we can provide already valued tool sets and workflows, which help also IoT to say, oh, okay, they are working on their side, community can work on their side already. And yep. It was kind of amazing as well, because the spreadsheet which was set up, I will just add it in the Zoom link here. So we have someone from the community who said, oh, okay, Lucio, he will mint a special NFT as well as reward for contribution. So the laser cat NFT, we got it now. And another community member said also, yeah, that he will contribute 10 ADAs. So we will pick randomly one person which contributes to the workflow to set KPIs behind all funded proposals. And we're going to distribute a small gift packet to them as well. We started to communicate and initiate everything today on Discord.
Very nice. Felix, Dor is asking if you're in close touch with Chris. And about reporting, he can help integrating.
Not about this yet, because we started this just Wednesday. We came together in the after town hall in a call, getting people online, getting people on the train, see who is willing to contribute. And yes. Good so stuff. I think the problem from almost non-existing collaboration layer in the cohort, what is still in the backlog, we can move it forward also into at least, don't know, what do you think on which point?
Well, I guess the question is, how well defined is it? Like, do we have some kind of a document? I would suggest like, and I think it actually can be really nice if there was some kind of document. Could be pretty short, but that just like it defines the problems, defines some of the goals, Just because just like I mean, if your group that's working on it now can produce something like that, it's useful, because then then we can come to the town hall, present it, inspire more people to join the group, and also inspire more people or even to try more things in parallel, because everybody has a shared understanding. So it's kind of like it's kind of picked up, but it's also like needs to be well defined and needs to be shared with the community. I'm just trying. It's like we set up the schema for the Trello board, and now we can see how when things just like act on stuff, it doesn't necessarily neatly move in a linear fashion, like. So I would invite the facilitator team to reflect about it and like see, because I do think it's actually the structure really helps. I do think it helping us structure our work. But what do we do with all these edge cases and it's a good meta question.
Just to this point, we have several documents, but they are not yet totally finished.
Can you like for the next circle, like I guess this is like the last circle, but for V2, can that team come to the circle and present it, right? And we can start that would be a good outcome.
I believe it's all clear on next steps there. So Stephen as well is asking, should we move it to researching? Does that seem to make sense? Researching? Perfect. Yes, so those were the updates we knew were going to be discussed, unless anyone else has any other update or cards that they want to either move from stages or maybe add new cards as they leave during the last session. I guess we're all good then. And we've added, Stephen has added an action item to all the team to present to the Circle V2 upcoming. Perfect. So with that, thank you all for that. And I'll be passing it to Nori for a very interesting retrospective on the past 3 months. Looking forward to this. Over to you, Nori.
All right, thanks, Nadim. Let me share the retrospective link. If everybody could go to this link, this is an app called Teleretro, which we've been using for the community retrospectives, and it's a pretty simple retro. I'll share my screen so we can walk through this. Can everybody see the retro board? So basically, if you've never used this before, the way to add a card, and that's basically kind of an encapsulated thought of your own, is to hit the plus at the top and a card will appear. And then you can type something in and then hit enter and it'll complete the card. Just as a note, a helpful card would have some context so that you know what the person is thinking and whether someone else would like to talk about it. Something that'd be less helpful would be like under the learned would be something like, I learned a lot. That's not a really helpful card. It would be nice to have a little more context of what you learned and what impact that had and things like that. So I will open it up for people to start adding cards. There's two options here. We can work in a brainstorm mode where you can't see other people's cards. Or we can do it open so you can see as people do cards. So I've found in the past that an open style helps trigger things that other people want to contribute because you can see what other people are doing, and it usually leads to better outcomes, but some people like to brainstorm on their own without that distraction. So we can do that or a hybrid of the two. What would you guys prefer? There are no preferences, and we'll just do it in an open style. I'll set a timer for 10 minutes, and then we can spend the next 10 minutes just adding stuff. Oh, actually, let me stop the timer so I can just explain things. There are 5 columns here. The first one is liked. So these are things that you really liked or found valuable. Learned is things that you learned or are going to take away. Lacked, things that you felt were lacking or could be better. Longed for was something you wish for and that we could maybe introduce with circle V2. And then if something doesn't fit in any of these categories, feel free to list them on the 5th column here. Any questions? If not, then I'll start the timer. And yeah, spend 10 minutes thinking about each of these columns and adding some thoughts to things you liked, learned, lacked, longed for, or just want to list. right. We still have 2 minutes left. Does anybody need more time? It looks like the little popcorns have stopped. You would like more time, just raise your hand. Otherwise, we'll move on to the voting stage. Okay, and the timer. So we have four primary columns of the liked, learned, lacked, and longed for. So I'm going to give each person 8 votes. Please vote for 2 items in each column, and then we'll pick the ones that get the most votes to talk about. So these are ones that you would like to either recognize or call out for discussion. And put 2 per column, and then we'll tally them up.
How much time we have to decide on our votes?
Let's give ourselves max of 5 minutes. I'll start a timer for that.
Okay, thanks.
Victor, you really look motivated today.
Motivated or concentrated?
Come on, you're full-time catalyst now. You have to smile like all over the place.
Okay, that's been 5 minutes. Does anybody need more time? Okay, doesn't seem like anybody needs more time, so I will end the voting now. All right, so let's enter the discussion phase. It looks like on the liked column, resilience, dealing with hard issues and ambiguity while being civil and supportive got 3 votes. Does anybody want to speak to that card?
Who wrote it?
I did.
You want to talk a little bit, Dor, about what you saw and what prompted you to write that card?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like, I think we did incredibly well. I think it was a really big, we took on something, a really big bite out of something, and most of us haven't worked together before, and it's just incredible. I think that it was very hard at times, and I think that the only reason now we're kind of here feeling good is by managing to deal with all the stuff that came our way. Okay, and it was only done because, you know, while mistakes were made and, like, you know, miscommunications were had as per normal human activity, you know, there was never blame, never like anger, like never, always constructive, always patience, and giving people a chance to kind of like figure things out, and, like, you know, and I can tell, and I've been on both sides of that myself. So, and I feel probably most of us did, and that's something that's non-trivial. I think a lot of groups end up being like in conflict or harbor all sorts of stuff, and this is something that needs to be persistent in the culture of and the values of the circle going forward.
Thank you. Do people who voted for this one want to say anything about it and why you voted for it?
Yep. I voted for this because I think this experience showed us that even when we are dealing with the specific problems that we want to solve, even if some of them seemed kind of simple, some of them seemed complex, but it's really actually impossible to not receive outputs from outside, because we are dealing with it is the first iteration of the circle, and we know we would have some challenges, but I think we faced more challenges than we were expecting in V1, and I think this is something that is kind of skill or characteristic that is required for this task as well, to be resilient, to know how to be flexible, to adapt, and to come to a middle ground on different aspects.
Thanks, Victor. Does anybody else want to contribute to the conversation on this card, whether you voted for it or not? Okay, we can move on. There were a couple of people who voted on having a small, consistent group to work together over time. Does whoever put that card up or voted on it want to speak to that?
I mean, I wrote it. I was hoping not to talk too much. Maybe someone, the person who voted on it, can talk about it.
Okay. Who voted for that one?
I voted because I'm sure you submitted as well to take less space in meetings. I'm sure this one's from you.
Yeah.
I voted for it because I think it's one of the most important parts of the what actually is happening in the ecosystem, not only for Catalyst Circle. So in Project Catalyst, that overall people coming together with totally different backgrounds, coming together in small teams and educate themselves how this collaboration can look like. We don't have any playbooks, we don't have any scripts, but it helps us a lot in this regard. We have to explore it by ourselves. It's a little bit related also to the topic we just spoke before. So it's always, most of these efforts are working quite well. I think this is just beautiful to see, just. Also to see that it's even effective. It's not just people coming together, speaking over circles and circles. There's actually, they walk, they're not just speak.
Beautiful. Thanks, Felix. Anybody else want to contribute to that? If not, the next card is secretary and facilitation teams are awesome. Who threw that one up?
I mean, I did. Who voted for it? That's the question. I want to talk about it.
Yeah. Who did vote for that?
I don't know, maybe I did it, but I don't know. But anyway, yes, definitely. I know the facilitation and secretaries also, which helped us a lot. And I think it was a great idea to have, and actually it has been expanded to several people, which is, so it's really helpful for us. And I think it's, we have really great people here. So we feel blessed to have you guys here. So that's it.
I think you're the secret weapon to. I'm using so many army weapons. I mean, you're the magical butterflies of harmony of this of the circle, and I really hope that both the secretary and facilitation teams continue with version 2, because we really need you. You're adding lots and lots of value, and I think you're putting up a model for all the governance that is key. It's like, I don't see us succeeding, not in the circle and not also in decentralizing the governance of Cardano without the secretary and facilitation teams like taking on additional responsibilities, and I really want to encourage you to. I know there was like one submission for like secretary funding, but anyway, I think we need to figure out like how to scale up the proposals for these teams, because I think we all see how important it is and how much value it brings, and these people need to be compensated accordingly. That's my point.
And that's, I think it's very important topic, which CC2, I suppose, will have to figure out how to manage that and get some stable support.
Awesome. Thanks for that feedback. I'm sure these would be really great sound bites to market the position as well. All right. I'll skip over the single vote ones unless people really want to do that. If we have time at the end, we can come back to those if people feel strongly. Let's move to the learned column. Here, there's a couple of 3s, so we can start with this one. The CC is a perfect micro picture of the overall catalyst and its functional groups. That's probably Felix. Do you want to talk to that card and a little context?
This is really amazing when you look on it, because cohorts really lacking structure, lacking communications, they have problems to get involved somehow in Project Catalyst. the SPOs, they are not really incentives. So nothing against the people who are representing, but it's kind of from a philosophic point of view, it's extremely interesting. The SPOs are mostly not really present in Project Catalyst. They have problems to contribute. Imago is not even invited. Cardano Foundation has no presence in Project Catalyst. Toolmakers and CAs are extremely engaged, taking a lot of initiative and also responsibility. And by lack of the situation, IOHK has to make the decisions. So what we have in Project Catalyst, it's exactly what we have in Catalyst Circle. So it's really like a very condensed microcosmos. And this, I'm really amazed by this. So to say, yeah, the experiment is definitely successful, because somehow it arrived naturally, because there wasn't a coordination behind who forced the people, the representative, to act in this or in that way. Also what we saw with the general ADA holders, they are extremely struggling to contribute into the process. So it just fits perfectly. And so, yeah, successful experiment, definitely.
Does anybody want to add to that? Somebody who voted for it?
Yeah, I voted for it because I was curious about who wrote it, but I agree with Felix. But I also think that currently there's some overlap, especially between toolmakers, CAs, and proposers. And yeah, I agree with this point of view. Maybe this could help us with solving all the problems outside the Catalyst Circle as well.
Also, any other comments? Okay, the next one is how important it is to have the right facilitation and methods in place to get work done. Who put that card up, and can you add some more context to that?
It's me. I'm gonna repeat myself what I said before. It's really important. I mean, it's like I think that, you know, I'm now in the kind of perspective of like transition planning and like, you know, scaling up some stuff, and I really think that the human processes thing, okay, I call it human processes, like the human processes that drive governance are a critical fundamental part, and it's crazy how much of an afterthought it is, right? When you even if you think about like normal government, right? You think about like a cabinet of the US, you know, of the US government, like meeting, right? It's like, who's facilitating that? How are they, you know, how are they making discussions? You know, what kind of tools and methods they use to determine like the future of the planet? And you see it's so lacking, you know, it's so blah. And like, and I think it's a great way to really think about it in a systemic way. And I think we're gonna see and if we do the job right, I think we're gonna see better decisions, like basically superior decisions come out of such structures like we build than other structures, simply because we're aware of this and like put attention to it, versus like people are focusing on other things. That I guess that's I'm really inspired by all this.
Thanks, Dor. Does anybody else, maybe the people who voted for it, or anybody else, have any other context or thoughts to add to that? Why you voted for it?
Yeah, I voted for this because for me it was very clear the increase in efficiency, I would say, these meetings, because we had 3 different kind of facilitations and we were just improving over time. And it was very clear that now we reached something very good that could even be the standard moving forward.
Nice, thank you for that. Anybody else? All right, we can get into some of the more juicier ones in the lacked column. There seems to be a big spread of what people voted for here. So I'll start here with the one that got 2 votes: more time for unofficial discussions, meetings with members to work on problem solving and defining the problems, etc. Who put this card up? And can you add more context?
I did. Yeah, I did. So this is, what I also felt all over times, that, we are lacking some kind of additional meetings, unofficial meetings, when we can, basically work on some kind of things. And actually that was one of the issues when we, when I and others messed up with budgetings and other things. But yeah, that's actually, when we try to work together, it's really, we felt that it's really, we are moving forward. But as all of the members are super busy in different projects, so it really was hard to get people together, more than 2 people, and that was I think I was lacking. I don't know, but about others, so that's just what I felt. And also that there's not official so that's kind of another thing, which is platform. But for this one, it's basically an additional time, which I think the next CC2 members will have to calculate in, that it's not only the official time, but you have to really have time for meetings, additional meetings with other members, and even with some additional groups. It's not only about the Catalyst Circle members, it's Catalyst Circles plus some maybe experts in some kind of area, which they can really give insights in this, and work together.
Thanks, Lauris. I think as part of our nomination criteria, we actually added like 10+ hours a week to devote as one of the criteria. I'd be curious to hear from people how much time you think we should be asking people to expect to be effective in this role.
I've answered that sheet that Nadine shared with us in the Telegram group, and I've put 6 to 8 hours per week, I think.
I would even go further and say, in the best case, at least from community side, I know that there's a difference between from community side and from Cardano Foundation and IOHK, for example. I would even go further and say, as we encourage people to go full-time into Catalyst, and Catalyst Circle is an extremely crucial part, I would even say that I would envision, so my desire would be to have people who have this almost like a full-time or half-time job. So 20 hours per week, something like this, to really get things done. We can't expect this from IOHK side, as they have their official roles, their official commitments. But from community side, when a frame like this is given, that people can be rewarded and could live from this, I think there could be a huge value income from this and outcome.
Anybody else have anything else to add to that?
Don muted himself before, but he sticks to his to his calculator space anything.
Yeah. Okay. There were a lot of ones through here. Does anybody feel strongly about any of these that you would like to bring up for discussion?
I think the in-person interaction could be a completely new level. Imagine if we actually met in person. If we had like a 3-day workshop or something when we started Circle, it would have been like such a different, the entire experience going forward would have been like so different. Yeah, it's like yeah, it's not budgeted for V2, but I'd love if, like, even for V3, we would, we would include like travel budget for people when a new circle is formed, like actually get all the new and old members together in the same place, just for some kind of a shared retreat, because this fundamental to build relationships. I think it can really help. It can really accelerate this kind of stuff, trust and better communication.
Yeah,
That would be
definitely.
amazing.
Yeah, if you on next Cardano summit, basically there would be some kind of additional, room for people to meet. Yeah, from Catalyst Circle. Unfortunately, this year it was not possible due to the restrictions traveling to US. But yeah, so hopefully in the future there will be opportunity, because when we see, in the London summit, when I met also with my people, it's of course, afterwards it's different, some kind of workflow with them, and it's more on personal level, and at the same time, engagement is definitely higher.
Anybody else have something to contribute? I can envision in the future maybe having the circle gather for 3 days at Charles's ranch. A little offsite.
That would be definitely a boost for people to come for this,
For sure. Any other of the one cards that somebody would like to call out for discussion? If not, let's go to the longed for column.
Just one. Just very brief, just a missing participation from Cardano Foundation. I think this is, this is not really desired as Cardano Foundation. It's normally a key role in the ecosystem and should actively participate. And this lacked, I would say, almost 200%. So, which also asks a little bit from my point
maybe
of view.
In the future, CF and maybe IOHK can have a dedicated person who is doing this and who is participating in Catalyst Circle, like a full-timer. I don't know.
Yeah, I think just from what I saw from the outside, there definitely seemed to be a lack of participation from CF. So I don't know if anybody has communication channels to them, but perhaps David didn't have enough time to participate meaningfully, and maybe somebody else within the org does, or maybe an ambassador could sit in and represent or something like that. But yeah, I agree that having participation from one of the key pillars of the community makes a lot of sense. And I think for V2, can we iterate and figure out a way to get greater participation?
Yeah, it's a complex one. I mean, it's like there's a lot of things in play here, right? And it's also like how we're going to react to it is going to like define also the how things evolve. So I think we need to be strategic. Like, I mean, it's complicated. I mean, I think my perspective is that I think the next circle needs to have a clear protocol of if someone is not attending, what is not going to attend a coming meeting, what does it mean? Like, I think like something like he needs to alert people in advance, he needs to listen to the recording, he needs to, write down his comments. And also, and if they fail to do that, they're like out of the circle, and like someone else comes to replace them, like something like that. Because I think, we've actually had three individuals, right, missing from meetings and not communicating about it. And so it's not just the CF, I think it's a general kind of a governance thing. I think first circle, great. It's like experiment. We volunteers. Like nobody. It's like I'm actually not. I don't feel very attached, right, to people coming or not coming. But I think circle V2, it needs to be a bit more tight, and understanding that this it's its organization is to further establish our legitimacy, legitimacy established by showing up. And if you don't show up, you delegitimize the structure, and then it needs to be repercussions. That's it. Like not, and I'm talking about anyone who's took on a role of representing. There's some duty attached to that. So because it's not just him, it's like them. It's like it's the group they're representing that need to have their voice. And if they're not, there needs to be accountability. And so I think it's actually a great, like I'm happy we had it now, happen early. Because I think, this whole thing about accountability is one of those things that I think is lacking for, again, it's just like a thing that happens in governance. It's like, those who don't develop how to call it, like immune system for lack of accountability, they're gonna end up being stagnant and toothless, like kind of beings. So I feel pretty strongly about it, as you can hear.
And it aligns with the card on the next column, protocol dealing with elected members not showing up. So maybe we can move on to that one. Does anybody else have anything else to contribute there?
Maybe the admin team can really build something like a draft, like a code of conduct for the Catalyst circle members. So also can evolve over iterations, but at minimum to come up already with a draft and to say, hey, you present yourself to represent the group, you're accountable for them as well. And you're accountable for the all Catalyst circle. It's not only you function in an organism, you function in a group. And how you represent yourself and the actions you are doing falling back to the whole group as well. Be aware of this. And if people don't agree, they don't have to sign up. It's okay. But yeah, to say already, hey, you commit to something.
Yeah. One thing that we do with proposers, funded proposers, is that we have this like public, kind of like public table that shows who's submitting reports and who's not submitting reports, and this is very effective because it creates this visibility, transparency, visibility about who's being accountable, right? And it's very and I would even say, like, even having that, like, just having like, okay, like here's the representatives, here's their attendance sheets, kind of, and just making it visible is already a strong kind of a social tool, right? To drive better behavior.
Okay, I'm using the list column to write any notable takeaway action items, so I added one for that. Any other comments on this topic? If not, another card that got 2 votes was an official platform for CC members for communication with the communities or voters. who wrote that card? And do you want to add some more context?
Yeah, this was me again. So yeah, that's I think also we were discussing and try to figure out, but we haven't managed that. So basically build a platform. So whenever the next Catalyst circle is coming, next Catalyst circle members are coming, they have some kind of platform contacts and already something which basically that they can continue and continue to communicate with the members, with the community. So currently it's still like, okay, so we are moving on, and there is no some kind of channel which you can give them and say, okay, here are the emails, here there are some kind of group where you can communicate, and which is like a property of Catalyst circle. So that's I think but CC version 2 will have to really think and establish. So there is some official way to communicate, and it's not only from our end to members, to community, but also how they can officially contact us. So currently, just try to catch me on Twitter or Telegram or come to Spokra or whatever. But there should be some kind of official. Like we can put some emails, we can put some other channels which are official channels with each of their voters.
All right. Does anybody have anything else to add to that? I think that's a really good idea to add. It even adds legitimacy to the group if there's an official way to contact and reach out.
Yeah, I would propose, like, for V2 to have an admin start. Again, if we get the funding, to use the funding to get a Google kind of corporate account, like Google Apps account. I forgot what it's called. That we can have our own email domain, and then like each representative gets its own email domain for being in contact. That will also make the maybe some other tools there could be useful. But then more on a long term, this is a kind of a patch, right? Just to have even an official entity email. But then going forward, maybe even start to go down the path of like, should we start like a DAO in Wyoming? Like a DAO entity that's like, so like, because what is like, is this admin now owns that email and his account, some people can come to him and like, oh, the circle did something illegal, you're accountable for that. It's like, it's a weird, I just think it's like literally not gonna happen in V2, like the stuff we're gonna do, but I think longer term, so I don't think it's a real risk, but I think longer term we need to, it makes sense that there is some kind of a DAO, legal DAO entity driving that as it matures.
Okay, I've taken that as a note. Anything else from anybody else on the topic? I think a DAO would be amazing for a number of our groups longer term, and I really look forward to seeing people building out those smart contracts and systems on top of a Cardano so that we can start to assemble these DAOs, because I think there's a lot of groups that naturally would benefit from tending that way longer term, especially just on the liability issue and the legal standing and being an entity. But yeah, any other thoughts or ideas on the card around official platforms for CC members? I'm curious, Lauris, you mentioned that you felt this was a lack, and I'm sure the CAs and the tool makers and maintainers kind of had a natural platform. Is that a shortcoming of the SPO space, that it's a fractured community, or that you don't have a single place where all SPOs kind of gather?
I'm not sure that if toolmakers had, their group has really, reached all the, people in their community. So maybe they are, maybe not. So for SPOs, of course, we have like platforms, but still it's like not owned by Catalyst Circle. So it's like if I leave, it's up to me to leave or not to give, somebody these access.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of, I think we need an official platform there. And because I'm not sure if we can reach all people, if somebody comes next who is coming, he has his own some kind of group or subgroup which he communicates and reaches. And therefore, maybe they'll not be reaching my some kind of groups because they're not familiar. So therefore, we have to start to build some kind of official channel, which really, even when we leave, it's there.
And would you see that as a combined official channel for all the seats? Or would each one have their own kind of official channel?
Definitely each of their own channels. And yeah, of course, one like common one is great. So I think town halls are already a good choice for common ones. But for SPOs, for data holders, or anybody else, definitely should be some kind of channel which is basically owned by Catalyst Circle.
That sounds really cool. I think it's a cool experiment. I mean, I would say that the nice thing about the circle is that it brings all the, like someone mentioned here, right? I take a bird perspective and understand problems within groups I'm naturally not involved in. That's like kind of like the essence of the circle, like the innovation it brings, right? It's all these groups that could have been siloed or not siloed. And I would super advocate for having just like kind of like a Slack channel for all the groups, that they can, they have channels for each group, but they have also a big chance to intermingle, because I think that's like a lot of the value comes from there. And of course people can like follow, and I like the idea of like using a really good full-featured collaboration platform versus like Discord that's like more adapted for like video gamers, like I would say. But like something a bit more worky, allows a bit more like, so something like Slack or I know there's like other open source stuff that's similar, but something like that for everybody, and like having also some sort of like a mailing list that people can subscribe and get updates directly from that, from the circle itself. Like, I think all of these things are really great things to try out and see how it works. It's not like we know.
Yeah. So one solution would be like some kind of mighty network. So basically it's a web platform where people can join, and there's different groups and there's chat, whatever you need. You don't have to need special some kind of software, to connect. It's easy to go. But yeah, so I think this will be something that CCV2 have to figure out and I think find a solution, because this is crucial.
I think those are all really great ideas. Does anybody else have anything else to contribute? All right.
I would love actually, if I can ask maybe Felix, does this was the question that, and also Victor, do you feel that you are covering like all, toolmakers or all, groups, or there's something that is still missing and you also prefer to have some kind of platform?
I don't think that I'm able to address all toolmakers and maintainers, because it's even hard to really define what are toolmakers and maintainers, especially when it comes to maintainers. What exactly is it a maintainer? What is the definition of a maintainer? So I was really focusing on, especially on the problems of the people within this group. So not looking so much on the specific group, but toolmaker and maintainer as, okay, is you have cohort and all the stuff to say, okay, all those people constantly add value in the community, who constantly work without even being in the cohort and being rewarded for this. So this was my main definition for the tool maker and maintainer, to capture a little bit, okay, which are those people? And but to your point, no, I don't think that it was possible to include all of them, because you never know when new people come in, what for initiatives are all out there in the ecosystem, especially as it's growing really fast, really rapid.
Yeah, for the CAs, I think it's easier to define who is a CA and who is not. And most of them are either on the Telegram group or the Discord group, but not all of them. But at the beginning, I think during the second or third week, no, actually second or first week, I asked Danny to send an email to all the CAs who were subscribed in 90 scale, inviting them to participate in the problem sensing phase, and also invited them to participate in the following phases as well. So I think we at least reached out to every CA, but the participation of the CAs in the circle itself was not that high. I mean, we've had hundreds of active CAs assessing proposals, but actively participating in Catalyst Circle initiatives, I would say maximum 50, 40, 50 CAs, which is actually good, but it's a small percentage of the whole population.
Yeah, I'd love to. I mean, I think there's like something Felix said is like really interesting. Like I think he pointed to an interesting problem about defining toolmakers and maintainers, and there's a bit of overlap with them and like funded proposers, right? Because I like a lot of like, but also there's a unique perspective. Like, you know, if I'm building some random decks, I like, you know, and I'm like building a decks versus like I'm building like a component in the governance, like if I'm doing if I'm like a facilitator, and for me this is a tool, it's a technology like any other technology, like it's like different perspective, different needs. It's like, I think the important thing, like the reason initially it was even a group, you know, it was because it needs to be acknowledged as such. Like it's important to actually like the identity of that needs to be formed, and the acknowledgement for the people who are doing it is really critical. Because they're such a fundamental part of the system. It's like, I don't know, it's like how, like, I think first of all, like maybe a lot of people don't realize that, you know, being a facilitator or running workshop means you are a toolmaker and maintainer, right? Like a lot of people associate this with technology. You know, maybe new name, new label, maybe even very more formal definition, even listing. Here are the tools, here are the methods, here are all the things that are, you know, here's a list of all the 50, I'm guessing, right? I guess my guess would be that there's like 25 different groups doing like different things, you know, like probably half of them are like swarm related, but within that there's like lots of subgroups. I actually think that like making that explicit, almost like having a registry, kind of like a toolmaker registry or something like that, that people can come and say like, oh, I'm like starting this thing, you know, and I'm like, could really help. But I want to open this for like a short discussion. I want to hear what you guys think of like how do we continue to help the toolmakers and maintainers evolve a strong identity, a strong support, strong representation.
Felix, do you have any thoughts on that?
Many, but I would like to hear from others first. what I think. Sometimes when we are close to something, we are the worst observator sometimes.
Yeah, I think it's almost by exclusion. If you are in the community, but you are not a CA, you are not an SPO, you are at least a toolmaker. Because if you are if you're not even hosting a workshop, but participating, giving ideas and discussing, because this is also helping to build the ecosystem. So somehow you are helping on the creation of these tools. It's really difficult to define, but to improve the identification of people with this role, I would say just to try to list, but not limit, the different roles that people take within Catalyst that make them a toolmaker or maintainer somehow.
I still remember on the very beginning, it was quite fun because the only definition which was there for toolmaker and maintainer was Catalyst Swarm, Catalyst Alliance, AIM. So the very first action I did was reaching out to Victor and say, hey, Victor, as you are in the Catalyst Swarm, as you are in the Catalyst Alliance, and as you are in AIM, you are the perfect toolmaker and maintainer. So, but wait, you are representing the CAs, but this is strange, okay. So I started my problems answering with Victor.
But it's like, again, it's like I remember when we just started the circle and we needed to think about what categories we are. It's like, it's really nice. It's really nice to use the lens of function, right? That there's like different functions, even though you can fill multiple functions, because it basically means that, because if all the functions are in harmony, it doesn't even matter with the people, right? Like if the people are splitting, how exactly people are splitting the time between the different functions. But if all the functions are in harmony, then the whole organism is in harmony. And so it's just like a really useful perspective to have, even if you are it's much better than I would argue it's much better than like an identity-based, like kind of like all the white people, all the black people, all the people from East Asia, all the people from India, people who are like rich and poor, like at least for this specific case. Okay, I would limit it for this specific case. For this specific case, it makes a lot of sense, because this is what because we're here to make something really functional, and they have, and these toolmakers have their very, very specific functions, right? Like their function is to expose, all the tools and methodologies and human processes that are the best, for us to have a better governance. And it's like it's a huge task. I mean, and it's important they have, it's important to that it's recognized and supported and represented, and everything, that all decisions we're making are there and involved, so I don't know how to, it's I don't know, one thing we can do is like put out a survey and actually start to ask everyone, kind of do a little, kind of a little mapping of like, what tools are you currently maintaining? What tools and methodologies and human processes are you currently maintaining or building, right? Or making? And from that, we can derive kind of a cool map, but yeah, it needs to be recognized. People need to be able to find each other, need to be able to gather and think and co-develop and give us feedback. And I don't know, it's already happening. It just like could happen even more, and especially like the whole human process stuff just needs to, I think, need to be more explicitly part of it, and more. like the people inside know, but like it's like the new people, I'm not sure they know.
Those are really good points. So circling back to Felix, what are your thoughts on that topic now that we've heard from the others?
My thoughts are constantly evolving, and just from my experience, what I made a lot was I had a high focus on Jimmer Labs for the specific case of tool makers and maintainers, because Jimmer Labs is a group, a collective, a community which are building tools, which also educate people, which onboard people, which maintaining relations and the communications they have with very specific problems, and everything quite mapped into one project. And this helped me a lot to in the problem sensing also to say, okay, which problems is this group facing, because this group represents a little bit on a quite effective way what the tool makers and maintainers on the large scale are representing. Because just like Dor said, building a DEX, building pool tools, building whatnot is something totally else than gathering a workshop, educating people. But all those represented in one group, extremely difficult. Also with the new CA rewarding model now, or the CA model, where proposer also can be a CA. They say, oh, okay, so there needs to be a line somewhere. But yeah, where?
I mean, I could be a dad and the employee, and the consumer or something, like, I can have different functions, different hats, different intentions. And it's, it's kind of, I don't know. I guess the question is like, where does it break down? Where does maybe a bit more analysis, right? Like what kind of concrete problems, issues, missed opportunities are created with the current categorization, and then maybe once we expose that, we can talk about the changes that can be done. So almost like a internal retrospective for the tool makers to maintainers to think about it. I mean,
I think there's definitely opportunity here to better define that category. It seems like there's overlap. And I think a lot of people in the community wear a lot of hats. Like I myself, I'm an SPO, I'm a CA, I did proposals. I identify as a tool maker and maintainer, and I'm a general A devoter. So I fit all 5 categories of the electable positions. And maybe that's why I'm on the admin team, because I can like contribute across the board. But yeah, and I think many people are in the same way, because everything we're doing involves a community, and it's not like we're hired into a job and that's the only thing you do. A lot of us do lots of little things and contribute where we can. But yeah, I've always wondered how to define the tool maker and maintainer, because it seems very rigid. And when I hear it, I think about coding and tools and stuff. So I appreciate Dor's clarification of also thinking about systems and mechanisms and facilitation and things like that also are included. And yeah, being able to communicate that, I think, would be a really useful thing, because that just kind of expands that category to make more of our community feel welcome there and represented.
I think also it makes sense to, because we have IoT, we have CF, we have ADA holders, we have CAs, then we have one group, tool makers and maintainers. A group which includes 2 groups, which is kind of, well, From my perspective, it was always difficult to find a little bit, yes. So maybe in the further stage, it also would make sense to split them off. Also to have better tags, better criteria to both of them. Just easier to map than to say, okay, we put it all into one bucket and those are X and Y set, whatnot.
Yeah, I think also that's a good idea. Maybe we have to think about, how to better define the toolmakers in that group. So, and to split it maybe in smaller chunks, whatever. So, because it's the same with SPOs, if you're doing something else, then you're definitely in other group. And most probably, in most cases, you are in toolmaker group because there's nothing else there. So the question is like NFTs. So those people who are doing that, and I don't know, maybe let's see. There are a lot of other things which should be popping up, and different groups. So should we put it under one, or should we, have more people from more specific groups joining the Catalyst circle?
Also, it's a young group, I think, which is also a lot in defining itself. The toolmakers and maintainers in this regard.
Oh, everything on Catalyst and on Cardano is new.
But for the CAs, you have guidelines. For SPO, you have guidelines. An ADA holder, yeah, you need to hold ADA. Funded cohort has very clear guidelines.
I think toolmakers should have guidelines too. I think
yes,
it's
definitely
I think there's definitely needs to be a formalization of stuff like privacy, user rights, even though right now it's a early group of people who are early adopters who kind of, what happens when someone creates a voting tool, but one that records the votes, saves it, and then they use it to extort people or dox people, so that kind of stuff, and it's, these things are gonna happen, right? We're building an open API. We're driving an open. We're gonna drive an open ecosystem, and there's gonna be some things I can't tell you right now, but other exciting integrations and possibilities for developing the open tool ecosystem of Catalyst. So it's just gonna grow. But now is the time to put some principles in that can really help it evolve in the right way, the right direction.
Right. I think we're getting to the end of our time here. Is there any further things that people want to talk about? And Nadim, if you're still around, how are we doing for time? I'm just kind of glancing at the clock and the calendar.
Perfect.
I'm not sure how much time we had and what you wanted to close up with.
That's it. That's mainly the most important thing. So I'll let you and the team finalize, and there'll be just a few minutes finalizing the call.
Okay.
Right on time.
So thank you. Let's wrap this up. Thanks for all of your input and conversation. I think a lot of this will be super useful for Circle V2, and I'm sure the admin team will have a lot of takeaways as well. And any final comments or reflections from the Circle members that you want to just leave the new Circle with, or leave as a soundbite for the new Circle, since we'll be using this as a advertising? How about we just go around for closing comments for the retrospective, starting with Lauris and then Victor.
Oh, okay, sure. So definitely, there's a lot of interesting things which happened during this, 3 months, and I think we learned a lot, and actually our community learned a lot about this, and it's nice to see that we started something great, I think, and it will evolve and become more important, and also maybe in decision power, etc. So that's kind of things which we are looking forward, and I hope this will be successful. Some kind of first some kind of try of group people who basically we can copy this type of group or some kind of community or circle to other areas, copy paste, and yeah, so that's very interesting to see how it evolves, and yeah, I'm happy to be part of that.
Victor and then Dor.
Yep. So for me as well, I'm very happy to be part of the first Catalyst circle, and I think it was a quite long journey. It was only 3 to 4 months, but it was very satisfying, at least for me, to help building the foundations for the future of governance. And I think that it's good that it's like a short mandate, because we can have different people working here in different perspectives, and at the same time we can evaluate different approaches to similar problems. And I think this is very valuable, and yeah, I think that's it.
Thanks, Victor. Dor and then Felix.
Yeah, I think we were the lemmings, like, crashing into all the crazy traps and challenges and at the start, and we have the scars to show it, and and we did a phenomenal job, and I think we're living to V2 exactly what we said we were going to do. Okay, we're leaving a good foundation for them to tackle new weird traps, of like going further than us. We led some really important first things, and show that it's can be done. And I think that I think there's very few people actually like tracking all these conversations and noticing the progress, because but the few do, and can see the potential. They can see the progress made, and what we accomplished with a bunch of volunteers working in not having lots of resources and support, and realizing what can we do if we do get support, and we actually are getting incentivized and we are getting more organized. I think the sky's the limit, and we planted that seed, okay, to show it's possible. And for that, we are awesome, and we should feel really good about ourselves.
Thank you, Dor. And Felix, any final comments?
Just second what everybody said, and I have a huge respect for what everybody did, and also because in the beginning it was said it's about leadership, and I have a natural, let's say, anti-feeling against authorism and leaderships, and I said, wait, what the fuck, leadership? I'm really honored and well surprised of seeing, okay, what leaderships actually can look like. But there is a group of people taking initiative, taking responsibility in a direction where nobody knows where it leads to, and taking the responsibility, doing the steps, exploring new ground with the awareness that each step in this direction is made to build a road for those who will come after us. So, and I think we made some amazing good steps in this direction on the right matter as well. We didn't abuse our leadership roles. We stood to the ground. We never described our code of conduct, but there was a natural code of conduct of respecting each other, of listening to each other, and also even when not all the time agree, to somehow find a common ground. And in this regard, I think it was a total success, and I feel very honored. been a part of it. And the last mark, Thor, it's fucking heavy to catch up with you. You have really a high level of acting. And I know that I speak also for other people in the Catalyst circle. And you set the bar so fucking high. And you have an atmosphere of expectation around you. I think you are aware of this, which pushes people, which push them extremely, sometimes to their limit in some regards.
Wow, thanks. I mean, it feels maybe a bit too much.
And you're kind of really crazy, dude.
In a good sense.
Well, thank you. And yeah, I don't know. I'll process this. I think I hope I can push people towards being less pushing themselves beyond their capacities and help everybody find a good place for them, because we actually need everybody to be well and be in harmony so they can contribute, be the best selves, show off as the best selves for all these hard things. So I'm taking it as both a compliment and something to work on.
All right, thanks everybody. I guess that'll wrap up the retrospective part of this. The admin team will go back, take notes, and share the results. Thank you very much for taking part. I think it's a very important activity to reflect so that we can continue to grow and evolve. And I know it's sometimes not easy and it takes some time. So I appreciate all the effort and the thoughts and the conversation that happened today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Back to you, Nadine.
You guys.
Thank you, Nori. I told you guys this was going to be interesting. It was awesome. It was beautiful. I loved every minute of it. Yeah, thank you guys. Really, actually, I was thinking of ending with a round of everyone speaking their final words, but I guess that was already just done. But from our end, from the admin team, I myself and on behalf of the admin team want to thank all of you. It's been an incredible honor working with you guys. We've learned from each and every one of you. We're going to try to continue, to carry the torch forward. And please don't forget the responsibilities you guys have in mentoring CCV2 because they're going to need your guidance and support. And we look forward to staying in touch, seeing you around the community and continue to build together. Thank you so much. And yeah, let's stay in touch, guys. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. Have a good day.
Thanks, everybody.